The drums of war are beating louder.
One side's very well armed, professionally trained, sent in to mercilessly smash an uprising. The other side's a bunch of civilians making weapons with anything they can in a desperate fight for freedom.
Yeah, Ukraine's a mess.
I'm talking about Acacia Prison. Have a look at this thing.
Heavily armed police are working to quell a riot that has erupted at Acacia Prison.
100 prisoners go nuts in one of the 8 cell blocks. They're on the roof setting fire to the place, complaining about conditions in WA's only privately run prison.
And this Chateau LeBlanc 68 is supposed to be served slightly chilled. This ain't room temperature.
The Department of Justice is saying it's all under control now, but for a while there it was pretty hairy because Kilo Unit, that's the one that was on fire, is very close to the industries wing, where they keep all the tools. And if the prisoners had got in there, it could have been very, very serious. We said this was going to happen. Historically, this kind of show of strength is a precursor to a riot.
Oh, it did. If only Russia would go quiet.
The world needs to give Putin the option of a dignified exit right now. We've got the hardest man in Europe since Stalin being stared down by an actor who became president of Ukraine after playing a TV role about being the president of Ukraine. Having to play Biff to Vladimir Zelensky's George McFly is infuriating Putin. The reputation of the Russian army is now on the line, and Putin's probably looking for an off-ramp. Problem is, he blew all of those up, and so it was almost inevitable that he's now looking at the option that everyone's been worried about this whole time.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Putin is readying his country's nuclear missile system, a spectacle which is terrifying Europe because Russian nukes are not as state-of-the-art as you might think, and if he launches one at Kyiv, they might hit Kensington.
We are at DEFCON 1.
Many of Russia's smarter nuclear scientists have got gigs in other countries because they were tired of not having a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, which left the B team in charge of the nuclear stockpile.
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
And now Putin sent in the kill squad.
400 Russian mercenaries have been sent on an assassination mission. And if that wasn't enough to worry about, the man they call the old man in the bunker might be losing the plot. US Senator Marco Rubio is Vice Chairman of the US Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. He knows his stuff, and so we should all be concerned by the tweet he sent out on the weekend. I wish I could share more, but for now I can say it's pretty obvious to many that something is off with #Putin, he said on Twitter on Saturday. He has always been a killer, but his problem now is different and significant. It would be a mistake to assume this Putin would react the same way he would have 5 years ago. This is a polite way of warning us that the guy in charge of the world's second biggest and ricketiest nuclear arsenal might be going nuts.
At least sanctions seem to be biting.
Russia's billionaire oligarchs, who generally prefer life in Londongrad over Leningrad, are feeling the pinch. UK Foreign Minister Liz Truss has said, "We are targeting oligarchs' private jets, we'll be targeting their properties, we'll be targeting other possessions that they have. There will be nowhere to hide." She's going after all Russian businessmen, and it doesn't matter how famous they are.
I am Alexander, founder of CompareTheMeerkat.com.
Nobody is going to be beyond the reach of British law. Nothing terrifies billionaires more than politicians starting to say, "Show me the money!" Roman Abramovich has handed control of Chelsea Football Club, which he owns, to an independent board because he's worried his close links to Putin could see him stripped of his prized possession. Oleg Deripaska, who owns an aluminium company called Rusal, has called for peace talks, and so has Mikhail Friedman, who runs one of Russia's biggest private banks. It's significant because the oligarchs form Putin's power base, because he's basically one of them. This guy earns $195,000 a year, but he's got the toys that only billionaires own.
But Navalny insists that not only does this property belong to Putin, but that it was financed through corruption and the misuse of public funds.
Bill Browder, a US financier who was once Russia's largest foreign investor, reckons Putin is, and I quote, "one of the richest men in the world." Browder told the US Senate in 2017 that Russia's president could have siphoned off $200 billion during his 20-year reign.
Putin's still got one billionaire friend.
The Donald. He spent 86 minutes telling anyone who would listen that
the problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb. Dumb.
And also that, unlike he and Putin, NATO was looking the opposite of smart.
I am smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
His message has resonated, with one poll suggesting 62% of Americans believe Russia would not have invaded if Trump was still president, which is about the proportion of Americans who also believe that coronavirus never really existed in the first place.
I wouldn't be mentioning Ukraine if I was Donald Trump.
This is the guy who withheld military aid worth $400 million from Ukraine in 2019 to try to strong-arm Zelensky into launching an investigation into Joe Biden. 3 years before that, he removed support from Ukraine from the Republican Party platform, and he was adamant that Russia could be a partner in peace.
But I think we will end up having an extraordinary relationship. I hope so. I've been saying, and I'm sure you've heard over the years, and as I campaign, that getting along with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Putin and Trump would both like Zelensky's approval rating.
It's enough to make any Western leader jealous and cause some to pine for the good old days. Mark McGowan has warned us to brace for a tough month ahead.
March will be the most difficult month Western Australia experiences.
Even though things are going so well here, there's good news in even COVID-positive cases.
These machines reported results which are now considered to be false positives.
Fresh restrictions are coming to WA on Thursday. That's the day that borders open and infected hordes are let in. The good news is the restrictions aren't as restrictive as they were going to be. The 4 square metre rule has been relaxed.
Everything in this pandemic is a balancing act.
The 2 square metre rules have changed.
Hospitality venues, fitness venues, entertainment venues, museums, galleries and places of worship will stay at the 2 square metre rule.
You can only have 10 people over to your house unless someone has just got married or just got dead, in which case it's 150.
Unfortunately, we know from the experience around the country that it is the home gatherings of families that cause the most spread of the virus.
And it's seated service only in nightclubs, which means Saturday night is going to be less this and more this.
It seems to me all-wheel drive is four-wheel drive.
Everything's relative.
Europe's facing an A-bomb. Queensland's hit by a rain bomb. 50,000 homes without power, 140 suburbs underwater, people climbing onto their roofs to save their own lives, not just to make trouble. Acacia Prison.
There's 26 of us on the roof waiting to be rescued.
Not even 3 months into 2022 and we've had a biblical flood, war, famine, pestilence and a lot of death. The 4 horsemen have already arrived. I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.